Hey, happy day 14 of the Get Up and Go Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here. Heavy sigh, deep breath. Want to take a couple of seconds and check in today. Check in with how are you doing? How are you feeling? And I want you to, today as part of your action item, and I'll go over it again, but one thing I'm going to ask you to do is share one word of how you're feeling right now. Me, I'd probably write heavy sigh, or I would probably write terrific because it's Tuesday, or awesome if it were Monday, but I am actually feeling really good. And even though I'm having bad hair days, I'm still feeling really optimistic and feeling really good. And not only about the challenge, but about pretty much everything that's going on and in my life, not necessarily around me, but with what I'm doing and how I'm trying to respond to this. So I want to take, we're at the 2-week mark, 14 days, day 14 today of our Get Up and Go Challenge. I want to just take a second to acknowledge and ask, how are you actually doing? And if you're doing lousy, write lousy. Whatever the one word that first pops into your mind is when I say, how are you feeling? Be honest. What is that word? What is the first word? Now, some days I wake up and I'm like funky, or I'm bewildered, or I forget what day of the week it is, or I am not awesome. But then I switch that. I flip the switch and I make sure that I approach my day before my feet hit the floor how I want to be, right? I'm not going to hop out of that bed grumpy. I'll sit there for 5 minutes and I'll do a meditation, or I will focus on something else, or I'll do whatever it takes to make sure that I don't get out of bed on the wrong side of the bed. Did I used to do that a lot? Oh, heck yeah. When I was younger, it was just the alarm clock would go off and I would hit the floor running. And I didn't think about how I was feeling or how I woke up, or if I woke up on the wrong side of the bed. And then, like human beings do, I would start stacking negative events on stubbing my toe or being late or whatever the thing was. And sometimes I catch myself doing that. I'll wake up and I have klutzy. I tend to be klutzy, right? So I will wake up and I'll spill coffee, or I'll spill coffee all down my front, or I'll down my face, or whatever. And then I'll start stacking on, oh, I'm such an idiot, I'm such a klutz. It's human nature, we do that. And it's the quicker I can catch myself doing that and stopping it and changing it, the better off I am. So how are you really feeling? Knowing that this is just a snapshot in time that I'm asking you to share, but just one word of how you're actually honestly feeling. And what I want you to tell me right now how you're feeling and not filter it. Because I really want to know, number one. And number two, not for me so much, but for you, I want you to get in the habit of acknowledging your feelings about stuff. Because as soon as you wake up and acknowledge and consciously realize how you're feeling about something, then you have the ability to react to it the way you want to react, to change it if you want to change it. If I am feeling super frustrated, say I'm trying to do something on the computer, and I tend to get really frustrated when I can't figure things out on the computer, the first time, which is really unrealistic, right? Because things are changing all the time with technology and computers and everything. And then add to that I can't see hardly at all, and I'm bound to get frustrated, right? So as soon as, the earlier I can catch myself feeling frustrated by something and just take a deep breath and realize I'll figure it out, the sooner I feel better. And actually, the sooner I figure it out. It's really crazy the way that works. But if I'm feeling frustrated or negative in any way, it blocks my ability to solve my own problem, to figure out what I'm trying to figure out. So how are you feeling? That's part one of today's little discussion. Number two, let's talk about progress. There's human beings, we all have the need to make progress. We either feel like we're moving toward what we want, which is how I define progress, or we feel like we're staying the same and we're just running in place and we're not making any progress. We're just stuck in neutral. Like, have you ever driven a stick shift? One of my son's friends just got a stick shift car day before yesterday, and we were talking about driving a manual. If you've ever driven a manual car, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes you grind the gears because you can't get into a gear, or you can't get out of neutral. That would be what I mean by you feel like you're not making any progress, or you feel like you're going backwards. Have you ever? That's another one. If you've driven a manual, or you're on a hill and you're trying to get into gear and all of a sudden the car is slipping backwards, that would be like a downward spiral. So we all have a human desire and a human need to feel like we're making progress. Now, part of this pandemic and this COVID virus has got us all, a lot of us, dead stop, or it gave us a dead stop. And we have a couple of options when we're in that situation. When things outside of us impact us in a way we get to decide how that's going to impact us. Is it going to dead stop us in our tracks? Is it going to prevent us from progressing at all in any area of our life? And I say, if I am making any progress in any area of my life, I'm in an upward spiral. We get to define it the way we want it. If I am making no progress in every area of my life, then I'm in neutral. Or if I'm declining in any area of my life, or every area. I say every area of my life. I have to be going down in every area of my life in order to feel like I'm in a downward spiral. Why do I do that? Because once we get into motion, whatever the direction of that motion, an object, including us, in motion tends to remain in motion unless acted upon by an equal and opposite force, right? We were all running through our lives pretty quickly, right? And making progress. Again, each and every one of us were defining that and feeling or not feeling like we were making progress before this pandemic. Now the pandemic hit, and many millions of people who were making progress and were having momentum and were feeling like their life was moving forward were immediately stopped. Again, we can decide, are we going to stay stopped, or are we going to find ways to continue to progress? I say, I'm finding ways to continue to progress, because I'm not sitting still just because something outside of me has impacted me. Now, was I always this way? No. Did it take a lot of bangs and a lot of stops and a lot of challenges and a lot of problems and a lot of issues and a lot of things that I didn't know how to figure out to figure out a process to figure them out and know that I can figure it all out? Absolutely. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands, probably hundreds of thousands of challenges and problems and situations that I personally have faced, and you've probably faced, tens of thousands of them as well, and overcome each and every one of them to be where you are right now. So the whole topic of progress, and this will be the second part of our action item today. I'm actually asking 3 questions for part of our action item today. Which is that more than one thing? No, it's 3 questions which are one thing. Because they're all tied together, right? They all are hooked together, which is why I'm explaining them. So do you feel right this minute, again, just like the word, one word, not a phrase, not a sentence, not a paragraph, one word, and you don't have to explain it, because how you define terrific could be different than how I define terrific. How you define depressed could be different than how I define depressed. How you define mediocre is different than I define mediocre. We don't need to get into a big definition thing. Just one word to describe how you're feeling. And then progress. Are you feeling like you're in neutral? If you're making progress, say progress. If you're declining, just say declining. Or you can put, plus, minus, or 0, right? So plus is you're progressing in any area of your life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, relationships, financial, or contribution. If you're making any progress in any of those areas, you can put a plus. If you're neutral, you feel like every single area of your life is just stalled, put a 0. And if you feel like you're declining in all those areas of your life, put a negative, right? Now, you might be declining in one, or feel like you're declining in 1 or 2, but you're progressing in a couple others. You can count that as positive, right? Like I said, I'd say define things, define your life, define your situation so that you are succeeding and winning all the time. And guess what? Almost no one, I don't even know if there is a person on the planet right now that would actually be progressing in all 7 areas of their life to the point that they feel absolutely stoked and satisfied. Now, I'm sure there are people, but usually there's one area or so of our life that's a little less progressive than the other. Doesn't mean we're not progressing. It just means it's not progressing as quickly as other areas of our life. So plus, minus, or 0, word for how you're feeling, plus, minus, or 0. And then the third thing I want to talk about today is habits. Now, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but we're getting into the habit of doing one thing every day to move us toward what we want. That is the definition, my definition of progress. If we are doing at least one thing every day, it doesn't have to be a giant thing. Some days we'll do really big monumental things, and other days we'll just do teeny tiny things. But as long as we are doing at least one thing every day to move us toward what we want, we'll get there. We'll get there eventually, right? And so how do we do that? How do we make sure we're doing that? Well, number one, we adopt and commit to the habit of doing one thing every day to move us toward our goals, toward our objectives, toward what we want, toward being a better human being. If I just decide that I'm going to do one thing every day for the rest of my life, and I'm going to commit to that, to be a better human being, that gives me infinite possibilities of what I can do to meet that definition and what I can actually do to become a better person every single day of my life, right? And what happens, what kind of a life do we lead? It's like if we decide every day we're just going to be happy, or we're going to look for something beautiful, or look for something fun, or do something fun. What does that do to the quality of our life? It makes it incredible. And it's not that hard to adopt the habit of doing one thing every day to move us toward what we want. And so I guess I was going to ask you to share a habit or share something that you've found so far that you can incorporate into your life. Maybe you want to share a habit of something that you've been doing since the pandemic started. And since each of our situations are different, it might be a habit that's different for each and every one of us. Maybe it's a habit with respect to your health. Maybe it's a habit with respect to your relationships. Maybe it's a new habit with how do you spend your time. But bottom line is, I don't want you to commit to this. It doesn't matter in my life whether you decide that you're going to do one thing every day to move you toward your goal or not, right? It doesn't do anything for me, but I can tell you it has absolutely positively, dramatically changed my life and what I'm able to accomplish by just changing that one habit in my life. So lots of other habits I've adopted in my life that have made a huge difference. One that I've let slip a little bit, which I committed to myself this morning, again I would get back on, is making sure that I'm getting enough water. Somehow, over the last few weeks, I have been drinking a ton of coffee, which some people would say, well, that counts as water, but it's not the same. At least it's not the same for my body. I need to actually drink water, lemon water every day. And I usually try to drink 4 to 6 of these a day, bottles of water, in addition to all of the coffee I'm consuming. And I noticed that I've slipped down to like 2 or 3 a day only, and that's not enough for my body to function well. So that's a habit that I can pick up again and start again really easily by just reminding myself how I formed it in the first place. So we're going to share 3 things today. Number 1, one word of how you're feeling, just checking in to see how you're feeling. Second, progress. Are you making progress? Do you feel like you're making progress or not? And of course, it's a subjective thing. If you feel like you're making progress, plus, feel like you're stuck, 0, feel like you're going backwards, a minus sign. And then the third thing is just share a habit. Share one habit that you are committed to doing, and if you commit to doing one thing every day that moves you toward your goal or objective, I would love to see some commitments to that today. But that's entirely up to you. It's for you to create the habits that support you in your life, and you get to choose and decide whatever those are. That's it. Go out. It's kind of an easier day today. It's more of a thinking day. Again, every day we should be doing something that's moving us toward the thing that we want. So we can check in with what we have been doing on our number one thing and what results we're getting, right? We should be doing that every day. Do something, a little something, and then check your result. If it's moving you toward what you want, do a little bit more, do a little bit different, tweak it a little bit to see if you can get an even better result. Treat yourself like your own science experiment and watch how massively and quickly things change for you. That's it. Have an awesome day. If I can help you in any way, hit me up in the comments below. I will put these 3 things into the action item comments box so that you know what to respond. And then I will also share my responses today. How am I feeling? How do I feel like I'm, where am I in the progress thing? And then what habit? Now you already know I do the one thing every day to move me toward what I want. But I will, I'll pick one of my other habits that I've been doing since COVID-19, since we've been in this weird situation, because I have consciously picked and chosen certain habits. And there's a couple of habits that are bad habits that I'm going to commit to breaking today. So I'll share those as well. All right. If I can help you in any way, ask. Otherwise, I will be with you tomorrow.